For Creamy Media's Polity, I'm Shannon Derehove. Author Angela Makolwa joins me to discuss her latest book, Black Widow Society. Black Widow Society is your second book focusing on the crime genre. What draws you to this genre and how do you conduct your research?
I think you tend to write what you read. So I've always been a lover, a great lover of crime fiction. I read a lot of American and a little bit of British crime. I love psychological thrillers. I prefer just kind of the character development and, you know, just that plot that kind of keeps you glued to every page. And so that's what I wanted to emulate in my own writing. So I think that's where it comes from.
And the research?
And the research, well, with the Black Widow Society, I started having the idea for the book in 2007, and the reason was because there were quite a lot of these Black Widow crimes. I mean, in the newspapers, there were quite a lot of headlines kind of screaming, Black Widow, Black Widow. So I just, you know, you think as just any normal person, you know, a woman married to a man, obviously that is somebody that they were very much in love with at some point in their lives. So why would they end up resorting to actually killing this person? What would have happened in that marriage, you know? So it was just something that I was just baffled and I suppose fascinated by in a kind of a dark and really weird way. So I started reading up a lot on those kind of stories, and then, you know, just doing a lot of research on that. And I came across one specific story that kind of stayed with me because this woman was in an extremely abusive relationship. And, you know, the kind of things that she was exposed to with this man in her marriage were just so atrocious that she became a ticking time bomb. I mean, you could almost kind of put yourself in her shoes and just think, oh my gosh, how did this woman manage to live like this for so many years? And so, you know, eventually one day she just snapped. And I think that kind of at least gave me some kind of a humane, I suppose, basis for it. And that's then how that's what set the premise for the book.
Why did you choose to focus on the chilling topic of domestic violence in affluent society?
In affluent society specifically because I think it is a highly stigmatized issue. I think, you know, people tend to put up a facade when they go out in public. And I know that domestic violence is a very huge pandemic in this country. People die as a result, like women who are abused, or even men there are men as well in abusive relationships. So it's something that is quite serious, and I think if people experience it within that kind of social strata, they hide it more because it's a scarlet letter. There's much more shame in it because, you know, you expect it to know better. You expect it to be empowered, whether you're the successful person, professional or businesswoman, whatever it is. And so there's much more shame in it. And I thought, you know, it's also an important issue to kind of bring to the fore.
It may be pure coincidence, but the book's release coincides with Women's Month in South Africa. Do you believe it offers something of a glimpse into the reality of the prevailing gender imbalances in this country?
It is an interesting question because, to be quite honest, when I wrote it, as much as you know, I was touched by some of the things that women go through in abusive relationships. I wrote it purely as crime fiction for entertainment. I mean, and it's quite satirical and there's a lot of dark humor in it. So I wasn't really out to make a statement. But when I launched it 2 weeks ago, I found that the audience, which was both male and female, there was quite a lot of emphasis. You know, people tended to identify with the issue of domestic violence, and that's what they kind of stuck to in the questions that they were asking. So it is a coincidence that it it launched on National Women's Month, but I think it's made me more circumspect about the topic itself, about the importance of the issue, and the importance of opening up the debate, you know, and engaging both men and women on this issue.
Tell us a bit about your characters. Each is successful, wealthy, and with good standing in the community. How did you choose each character for this novel?
Like I said, that the initial one story out of the various cases of you know, Black widows and domestic abuse that really you know, kind of struck me is the one relating to this woman. She actually wrote an email and she wrote a letter of some sort, and somehow it circulated as an email. It was going around during that time, 2007, 2008, and she was recounting, you know, from her own point of view, what exactly transpired in that marriage and why she finally snapped. And she was married to, she was quite, you know, high profile in her own way. She was married to a doctor, and, you know, she was viewed as this very successful, they were viewed as this power couple and that sort of thing. So I think that's the basis, for instance, for the main character, Talullah. You know, I mean, her story begins, we start with her story, which occurred like 20 years before. And she was also kind of lauded as part of a power couple. And yet, you know, she was living this gruesome life where she was constantly abused. And, you know, she decided to take matters into her own hands and hired a hitman to actually eliminate her errant husband. And she decided this is actually something that I could do for other women. So hence then we have the Black Widow Society. So I think the basis for starting this society, the secret society, is because she could relate to the fact that if you're that kind of person, you seen as successful and wealthy, it's difficult. There's all sorts of issues that come into play. You know, sometimes you're scared to leave because of what people will say, or sometimes the partner is manipulating you into staying and using all sorts of things, the kids or whatever you've amassed as a couple, you know, using that as a crutch, you know, to say like, if you leave, then you're going to lose this and that and the other. So I think that's where it all came from. So it becomes kind of, it becomes quite dark because this is a form of vigilantism. Like, it's like they are a vigilante group, you know, and they're fighting evil with evil in a way. So obviously something is bound to happen, you know, within that context.
Your day job is in public relations. Does this in any way influence any of your characters or story ideas?
I'm sure writers in general are influenced by their experiences. They're influenced by their cultural background. They are influenced by their socio-economic background, by all your experiences, the people that you encounter in life. I mean, all of that has a bearing on how you write. It influences how you tell your story. It influences, I mean, obviously everything that you encounter in life will have a basis to your creative process.
What can we expect from you in the future?
Well, it's very difficult to say because right now this book has taken up a good 2 years of my life. So I think right now I'm going to focus more on the business, and obviously there's a lot of, you know, talks and a lot of interest from people just about the Black Widow Society. So I think if there is another book in the works, it's maybe a couple of years more to come.
Well, we look forward to that.
Thank you very much.
That was author Angela Makolwa discussing her latest book, Black Widow Society.